Hello, Aldwyn, Altuney here. Welcome to Media Queen TV. We have the amazing Diane Happ with us today. She is a United Australia Party candidate in the next election, and she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today. And you are welcome to come and join us and ask questions as well. We'll be able to see your comments here wherever you are seeing this live online. A little bit about Diane. She's run in 2 previous elections, obtaining the highest swing in Australia of any new candidate and being offered a direct seat in the Senate. She was an advocate of Clive Palmer when she last ran and is still an advocate today. She's an entrepreneur with her own owning her own advertising and events business for many years, and believes we need to have business people as politicians, especially at the moment when our country is trillions of dollars in debt. And this is also why she believes in the Palmer United Australia Party. As she has proven business acumen, like Clive Palmer has, of course, he's a very switched on businessman. Like many small businesses, she has suffered enormously due to the handling of COVID by our government. She's also been following Craig Kelly for the past few years and believes he is a man for the people, as he lives by his convictions and has the courage to follow them through. She also has journalistic background, and she is a fighter and wants to fight for her children's future and the future of all Australian children. Sadly, she had a tragic loss of her 24-year-old son recently, and in the past, when campaigning at other elections, he was by her side and always proud of her for running for Parliament. She's also doing this for her son, as he wanted her to run again in this election. She will fight for you, she'll fight for Australia, she will fight for future generations, and she will fight for small business that she believes is the backbone of Australia. She's not a person to give up easily and believes our government's handling of COVID has all but destroyed small businesses and people's lives in general. Totally agree with you there, Diane. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on board here, and I love what United Australia Party stand for, and that is freedom, freedom, freedom. It was fantastic being at the launch event on the Sunshine Coast recently and to see Craig Kelly in action and Clive Palmer as well there. And I loved what you shared also at a Palmer gathering recently as well, where Dean Vegas was there, and you've stepped up, and here you are being a stand for our freedom. So, Diane, I'm really curious about your background in the media, and now also what's happened with your son. I want to cover some of that and why it's so important for you standing in this election.
Aldwyn, the most important thing for me in this election, and I have been waving this banner for nearly 3 years. A friend of mine told me all this was going to happen 3 years ago, and I told him he was crazy. I said, there's just no way. It just sounded so out there and so evil that he was going crazy. Then I started researching it, and everything he said happened. So then I really got into it to the point of driving my kids mad. I was living it 24/7, researching it 24/7. And in the end, that's why I wanted to run again in Parliament, because this has to stop. The world is evil. I really, I've sadly lost my son, but I have a daughter who's 29, and I want her to have kids, and I want to have grandkids, and I want her to have a future. The way the world is now, I don't want her to have children. If we don't change this, I would not like her to bring children into this world. We've got at the schools, what they're teaching them in primary school is, they're teaching them sex education in primary school. There was a senator the other day in Parliament, I can't think of what his name. He had a constituent who's sent the homework of a 10-year-old and talked to Daddy about his penis, masturbating and ejaculation. She's 10 years old.
Wow.
And then while I've been out there campaigning, I've spoken to a lot of parents, and they're all telling me the same thing, what their kids are coming home with. This is what they're teaching the kids at school now. They've slowly weaned out religion a long time ago. Now they're teaching them sex education at primary school. It is beyond evil, beyond evil. Let the kids be kids. Let them have a childhood. They don't need to know anything about that. And and then there's all the transgender stuff. There's some schools that in some states that can override parents' decisions on if the child wants to change their sex, which is medical procedures that are permanent. You know, like kids always, when they're little kids, I want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. It doesn't mean they want to change their sex permanently. And, you know, we're overriding, governments are overriding parents' rights. Parents' rights are being put in the back burner. They're slowly eroding them, you know, under our nose. And it's very scary to send your kids to school these days because you don't know, because kids are very easily, you know, coerced and influenced.
Yes,
you know, and
absolutely.
Some teachers, parents are telling the kids never to have this vaccine. The teachers are telling them they should have, you know, and kids will generally go with the flow of the other children. So, you know, well, some schools, high schools in New South Wales, they were paying $50 for the kids outside in a bus to get the vaccine. And parents who didn't want the kids, this is high school, parents who didn't want the kids to be vaccinated were vaccinated for the $50. You know, like it's just corruption at its best.
Yes, and the lies continue. In fact, just
at the moment.
today,
So I want to.
The lies continue. Got a little lag there. Sorry, what were we saying there?
Yeah. The lies, continuous lies on both major, or all three major parties. They're all in bed together. There is no question about that. They're even preferencing each other. So, you know, it doesn't matter which one gets in. We are in serious trouble if the major parties get in. Like, look what we've been through. When the government owns your body and tells you if you don't take a medical procedure in your body that you cannot earn a livelihood and feed your children, then where do we go from there? Obviously, clearly, there is no freedom. Obviously, clearly, it's communism. You know, obviously, clearly, we have no rights if they own our bodies to earn a living. Like, is there anything more disgusting ever? The nurses need to get back to work. The hospitals have no staff. The medical care is beyond a joke. My sister-in-law had a broken arm. She was sent home for a week in agony with a broken arm because they didn't have doctors to operate. And that's really sitting in the wrong place. She'll probably be crippled for life. On the Sunshine Coast, they're putting a marquee up outside. If you're not vaccinated, you're not allowed to go in the hospital. You have to sit outside. You're not even allowed to go to the toilet. You have to wee in the bush. This is how bad we pay the same taxes, Aldwyn. We pay the same taxes, whether we're vaccinated or not. So, you know, just that simple little thing, how people can't wake up. A government owns your body whether you work or not. Really? No, not on my watch.
Yes.
So, as you
well,
can
I
see,
love
I
your
get
passion.
very passionate about this.
Yeah, look, I love your passion, Diane, and I'm totally with you. I mean, even today, I was listening to the radio and an ad came on saying, get your booster. It will boost your immune system. I mean, that is the biggest lie out there. It will boost your immune system. It is going to kill your immune system, my friends. And do your own research. It is a medical procedure. It is not tested properly. It is like putting a gun to your head. And look, you know, if you want to get the vaccine, you know, I am pro-choice, right? I am pro-choice.
Yeah,
and that's part of what freedom's about, is about being pro-choice, not saying if you don't do it, you're not going to travel, can't see family, you can't work, all this kind of stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this is why now, more than ever, this election is really, really important for people to actually stand up and say enough is enough. This existing government, and as you say, the major parties are all in cahoots together. You know, we need to make a stand. Otherwise, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And if you could just share the major parties, some people are saying, oh, United Australia Party are giving their votes to some of these major parties. So just, if you could just share who are the major parties for those who know nothing about politics and have just been burying their head in the sand the last few years, which has been several people out there, right? So could you just share a little bit about these major parties?
Obviously, it's the three majors. It's the Liberals, Labor and the Greens. And make no mistake, the Greens and Labor have always been in bed together anyway. A vote for either one is a vote for the other. And now, of course, the Liberals are in bed with Labor as well, even preferencing them, which has never been done in history. And even over the past couple of years in my life, and I'm no spring chicken, I'm 63, nearly 64, in my life, I have never seen where what's been happening the last 2 years, Liberal is our governing body, and yet Labor, Albanese, hasn't stepped in once and gone against anything for 2 years. We haven't heard him. Usually they're out there bagging the hell out of them, 24/7. He's starting to a little bit now. There's an election on, but he hasn't in the past 2 years at all. And I've never seen that in my lifetime. Neither party ridiculing each other for 2 years. And, they say, Scott Morrison tries to say, the state governments have closed the borders, the state governments have ruled the mandates, the state government. Federal overrides state at any time. Federal government can step in and override state at any autonomy over our bodies. If they can do that, they can do anything. So, more lies. And, Albanese is going to give 40%, get the government to pay 40% for home, so we can get homes. Well, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid to realise that then the government's going to own your home, which means owning you again. And Scott Morrison's going to do the superannuation to help you get a house. Well, then what happens when you're old and you've got no money? United Australia Party is just going to cap the interest rates at 3% so you can afford a house and give you a $30,000 tax deduction for the younger people buying their first home. So, we've got a plan that you own your home. No one else owns your home. You own your home and you can afford to get into a home. We're the only party with a financial plan, a real financial plan. We're $1.4 trillion in debt. And no other party has a plan to get us out of it other than say it's going to take 187 years. Well, we have a plan that's only going to take 20 years because Australia could be one of the richest countries in the world. We have more iron ore, we have more natural resources, but our governments for years and years and years, without us really taking huge notice of it, have been taking everything offshore, our manufacturing, our superannuation, our gold, you name it. We don't own it anymore. And we don't even own our land. China owns most of it. We have a plan to bring everything back to Australia. And we put 15% excise on our iron ore, which China and most countries can't buy it anywhere else. We're the biggest suppliers. So they'll pay that 15%. And that 15% is a lot of money to go back to paying our debt of $1.4 trillion. We sell our coal to Japan, I think it's for $200 a tonne. They process it and resell for $20,000 a tonne. Why wouldn't we process it here? Why are we and we sell our coal to China, they process it, and we buy it back for twice as much as what we paid for it. Like, it's just absurd. It's insanity. No one realizes how rich we could be if we never took anything offshore, because we have more natural resources than anybody else. We have a small population, but we have the biggest natural resources. But our governments have been trading us in and sending us broke for many, many years before we've only just started to wake up.
Yes, exactly. And, the whole Reserve Bank and this privatization of the banking system. The fact is that there are a few global elite that are controlling everything. And,
Yes.
Do your own research on that. However, basically the politicians at the moment we're seeing are puppets. They are puppets to people that are controlling the banking system and controlling how we do things, controlling the media, right? We've got media programming going on big time. Media programming, we're seeing one-sided media in mainstream media. Thankfully, we now have alternative media. We have truth media. We have things like Rebel News and all sorts of alternative media now, thankfully, that we can actually research and get alternative opinions on things. Look at some places like BitChute, Rumble, Brand YouTube. If you want to see Telegram, alternative to the mainstream media, then look in some other places rather than just bury your head in the sand and just do whatever the government says. And who is the government to tell us how we should do health, what we should put in our bodies? Who the hell are the government to tell us that? So, we are in very interesting times, my friends, and, particularly what you were saying about with kids as well. Now, Colette's a beautiful lady, Colette Whelan. She's in the Self-Worth Warriors, one of my clients. She's out towards Bundaberg. She's actually gone now off grid. She's gone into the country. She's homeschooling. She's being ecological out there and got her own self-sustainable community happening there. And she says here, back to basics with kids. It's very interesting times with the fear-mongering that's going on and the divide and rule mentality. That's how they control you, my friends. They have you living in fear. And it's important that we rise above this, because there's certain things out there we cannot control. We can control how we're going to respond to it. Now, my heart goes out to you, Diane, with your son, 24, who you lost. Are you happy to share what happened there with your son?
I can talk about it a little bit, but not too much because I'll get a bit
emotional. Yeah.
Maybe anyway, he was 24 years old, and but basically prescription drugs killed him. But he didn't take them purposely or try and kill himself. It was just a mixture of 2 drugs and a new drug he was on because he was ADD that didn't mix. So he went to bed normal and didn't wake up. Well, I think we need to move on from this one.
Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. And, you know, we have seen through the last 2 years, we have seen so many people dying. I've lost a lot of friends myself under the age of 50, people you would not expect are perfectly healthy 1 minute and, you know, not here the next. And I think, you know, every time someone dies, it's another reminder to make the most of life and how short life is. And, you know, 1/3 of people die by the age of 65, 1/3 of the whole population. And of course, we've seen a lot more die younger than that with the vaccine and with the mental health issues. We've actually got 4 times the suicide rates as well during COVID. And, you know, normal suicide rates about a million a year. That's gone up 4 times. So, you know, we've got more people killing themselves and not dealing with things, the current state of the world.
I cannot believe every day, like I'm in a media group and every day somebody in media we know is dying every single day. And then, you know, all the sports people that are dying. I've never seen so many deaths in my life on Facebook. It's every single day there is somebody. And look, we all know they've stopped saying that it's heart attacks and whatever now. They're just saying they've died and stopped giving the cause of death. But we all know that a lot of them, you know, we know, but we're not.
We know those in the know. And interestingly, all through COVID, the last 2 years, all these 5G towers have been going up everywhere. All these cameras going up, monitoring everything. And now they want to bring in digital IDs, right? Apparently, the trials are going to be starting as of October this year. In the tax laws, it says if you're a company director, it is compulsory to get a digital ID, right? As of October this year. So do your own research, my friends. However, I'm looking to rechange my structuring now, not be a company director because of this, because I definitely don't want to be having digital ID. But, you know, this is the way we're going. And, you know, if there was nothing to hide, why have we had so many fact checkers come out of the blue, these anonymous fact checkers censoring information? You know, if the information's censored, my friends, you know there's something they don't want you to hear, okay? And do your own research again. You know, once you wake up to this stuff, you can't help but question everything, you know?
Well, it's just gobsmacking how many people haven't woken up. Like, for example, you know, the first vaccine didn't work. Let's get the second one. Oh, that didn't work. Let's get the third one. And now they're talking about a 4th one. And they blatantly say it doesn't stop spreading the virus. They blatantly say it doesn't stop you getting the virus. So why would anyone be lining up? It just absolutely gobsmacks me. And, you know, I've lost friends who won't listen to me and think I'm crazy, you know, and they just had their 4th one, some of them. And, you know, some of them even had reactions to the first ones, but they still keep going back. It just, and even in Queensland, you know, where obviously I live, we had no COVID cases till we opened up the borders to the vaccinated. So who do they think brought it in? Hello, there's just so many, even if you don't do research, there are so many obvious things out there that we'd be telling you something's not right here. Something's not right. And on the TGA website, apparently now, you know, because they're rolling out to 5 to 11-year-olds, there's 1,200 5 to 11-year-olds that are, you know, have had serious adverse reactions, including paralysation to the vaccine. Now, we all know if there's 1,200, there's probably 3 times as many as that because the doctors aren't allowed to report things, you know, like, so, you know, and what sort of parent goes and does that to their children without some research is gobsmacking to me as well. But, yeah, you know, now they're the kids, and now they're talking about doing it to under 5-year-olds. I mean, when does it stop? When does it stop? And how do people think that a trial for the kids was, you know, made, a vaccine for the kids was trialled enough to be made that quickly? Even the vaccine itself, from the virus to it being rolled out, just from a manufacturing perspective, you couldn't manufacture billions and billions and billions and billions of vaccines to put around the world that quickly from when the virus broke out to when they were rolled out. So there's just so many common sense things, even if you don't do your own research. And luckily I did a lot of research at the beginning before the fact checkers started stepping in, because it's hard for people to do research now because it's all, it's all banned. But just common sense, just wake up, because in effect, the people that aren't waking up, they're ruining our lives. We're not ruining theirs. They're actually ruining ours because they're bowing down to it. If everybody said no, we'd all have the power. The people have the power. We're the millions. They're not. But the people didn't give us the power because they bowed down to it. Everybody said, oh, well, I'll take money over, I'll need my job. I'll take the money over it, and to be quite honest, if I got in, I believe that every journalist, every politician, and many doctors and nurses should be trial for crimes against humanity, because they know, and they're still speaking it.
Totally.
I mean, I can't mention names, but I've got media friends and they say, we're told what to say when we go to work. There's no investigative journalism anymore. And I don't know if you know this, or what happened a year before COVID, as we all know, most people awake know who George Soros is. George Soros is one of the elitists behind all this, and he bought the Australian media, he bought Channel 9, and that they also own the talkback stations. Now, he's a multi-billionaire. What does he want with a little media company in Australia that makes sweet stuff all by comparison? To own it, to spread the lies, So that's why the media shutting up. And people who are taking money over people's lives should be tried for crimes. As if those journalists on television aren't getting a million emails from these poor people who have had the adverse reactions, and they're not mentioning any of them. So they know what's going on, but they still run up every day and tell the lies for the money. Well, I'm disgusted. And it
absolutely.
And the way the nurses, one of my constituents, members, volunteers, she lost her job 2 weeks ago because she was mandated. She was a nurse at the hospital. She'd been there 10 years, and I've had this story told me quite a few times. These poor people, medical professionals, they're marched out like they're criminals. They're treated like absolute garbage. There's no farewells or bye or, and they're treated by their colleagues that they've worked with and gone on with all these years, because the colleagues are bowing down to, what they're told to do. So the amount of weak people in the world is obviously greater than the amount of strong people in the world. And clearly I'm on the latter. But, it just absolutely, gobsmacks me. It really does.
I get it, Diane. I'm totally with you. And, it's actually when I first woke up, I remember exactly, because I had an ex-boyfriend who actually helped bring David Icke out to Australia many years ago. And he said to me one day, he said, oh, 9/11 was an inside job, don't you? And I said, what do you mean 9/11 was an inside job? I just thought it was the terrorists, terrorist attack, war on terror. And he said, watch this. And he showed me all these David Icke documentaries and other documentaries. And then I started to research and found all this footage that was not online. And I thought, oh, my goodness, if we're being lied to about this, then what else are we being lied to about, right?
Been lied to for years.
Yeah.
Years, and this has been planned and going on for years. I remember that 9/11 day, and I was watching George Bush on television reading his book Upside Down to the little kids, and then his people came in to tell him that the towers had been, the planes had gone into the towers and it was on fire and people were dying. But now, if you're a president of a country and that happened, it would be like your baby was just killed. You would be emotional. You would be an absolute wreck. He just had this total look of nothing on his face. Yes. And even with Scott Morrison not coming back here for the fires as our Prime Minister, that should be like your own house with your babies in it or on fire. You'd be on the next plane. Like when you are running a country, you're supposed to have the passion and the love for that country like it is your child. And if you don't, you shouldn't be in the job. Absolutely. So,
And the fact is he knew all along it was coming, because the towers had all been insured for 3 times their value a few weeks before they actually went down. So, there was secret information in there. There was all sorts of, look up look up the facts. And, you know, some people might be watching us right now going, oh, conspiracy theorists. Well, the only conspiracy is what's going on in the mainstream media right now, because the fact is, whatever you consider a conspiracy, it in time, it turns out to be true, right? In That's general, true. Most of it turns out to be true. And, you know, it's interesting. Even the term conspiracy theorist was created by the CIA in the 1950s to knock anyone who spoke against the government. And so people have been silenced and killed and shut down for years for speaking the truth. However, my friends, Julian Assange, look at Julian Assange. He revealed the Pizzagate, all the pedophiles and the sex offenders, etc., that are high up. Look up Bilderberg Group. You know, there's some interesting things. The child sacrifices. These are some evil, demonic people that.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Some evil people running the world.
I know a lot about it. People would be absolutely shocked if they knew
who was
doing this.
Yeah, and look, it is hard to believe some of this stuff. It's really like, oh my goodness, how could people do that? However, we're dealing with psychopaths and sociopaths here who have no feeling.
They're Satan worshippers.
They're Satan worshippers.
Under the guise of Freemasons.
Exactly. And, you know, I've also heard inside information that anyone who's senior sergeant or above in the police force is also part of the whole crew as well. You're not going to make it to senior sergeant and above in the police force unless you are part of the evil side. However, in saying that, you know, bring it back to how we can be empowered in these times, because there's certain things out there. I must say, sometimes we can go down the rabbit hole and we can get very depressed about the state of the world, right? We could be like, oh my goodness, this is just, you know, shocking. And it is shocking. However, for us to remain calm, peaceful, powerful during this time, one thing I believe it's important we do is we speak our truth. And of course, there's going to be people that love you and hate you for speaking your truth. However, I do believe in karma, and what comes around goes around with these evil forces out there. And I do believe that the light forces that amazing people are stepping up now and speaking courageously, because we've had enough of the lies, we've had enough of the crap. And this is where this next election is so important, that people actually vote, even though some people might say the voting is rigged. Well, that's a whole other story. However, you know, put your vote in. So back to this current election and how people can be empowered during these times, regardless of all the things out there that are happening that we can't control. What are some tips that you have, Diane, for people to be empowered at this time?
As far as the election goes, if you, firstly, I've got a lot of volunteers and they work their butts off. And a lot of them are old people and they're getting up on posts and putting signs up and going above and beyond, right? And they're feeling empowered because they're fighting a cause and they're fighting with passion and they're fighting for peace. And, you know, and they've got their comrades. Basically, we're soldiers in the ditches, really. And you know, you build rapport and they get out of bed and they're living with purpose, you know, and that empowers you to live with purpose instead of just living your daily life. Okay, I'll go drop the kids off, I'll go to work, I'll wash the dishes and I'll go to bed. You know, sure, we all have to do that, but then life disappears under your nose before you know it, and you're much older and you've achieved nothing and you've never lived with purpose and you've just gone to a job that you probably don't even like, you know, to earn money, to pay the bills and clean the house and bring up the kids. Well, you know, find your passion and do something about it. And if you have children, then be passionate about this, because you want your children to live in a better world. You don't want your children growing up in this world thinking transgender is fine and you know, learning about sex at their age and you know, have been locked down and not being able to play with other kids and being short of teachers and not getting education and, you know, having any illnesses and going to hospital and not being able to be fixed, you know, and teaching them not to hug or kiss, you know, to touch elbows, to show no emotion. You know, do you really want your kid and to be immunized by even take out the vaccine? Kids have to have 49 immunizations now by the time they're 5 years old, right? I think it's in their first year they have to have hepatitis B. Well, a 1-year-old doesn't have sex or do drugs. Why do they need hepatitis B? You know, so all this, and look, anyone, even if you're pro-immunisation, you know that what it's supposed to be is the virus being injected into you a little bit so you become immune to it. Well, if you've got 49 viruses being injected to you by the time you're 5, where do you think you're building up your own natural immune system, right? You're killing the kids' immune systems. They're not building up their own immune system. Get rid of it and let them play in the mud and stop washing their hands 24/7. You know, don't sterilize everything. We all survived. and we weren't that sick, so having to line your kids up 49 times before they're 5 years old to put something in their arms, all that stuff in their bodies, and like autism is at its peak, Asperger's is at its peak. It's 1 in 3 kids now, and everybody knows somebody that's got an autistic child, if not more than one person. And the doctors have spoken out and said it's from the vaccines. Now, I can't say that for a fact, but my research has, said that. Scott Morrison brought in compulsory immunisation for the kids to go to school. When he came in, we used to have a choice whether to immunise your kids or not. And I did immunise my kids. I thought, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But Scott Morrison brought it in to be compulsory and added a lot more immunisations onto it. Why did he do that? Why was it still the choice of the parents? We'd long got rid of measles, chickenpox and everything else. And most kids, especially might have had chickenpox, measles and what, we got through it. We got through it. And yes, a couple might have died, but in the main we got through it.
Exactly. So and actually the traditional, well, I say sick care system, the sick care system that we have currently has only been around about 200 years. I mean, back in the day we had shamans, we had natural plant medicine, we had all sorts of things, which basically a lot of pharmaceuticals are, they get the wisdom from the plant medicines and things like that. However, really, if you want to know what's going on right now, like it says in the Thrive documentaries, follow the money trail. Who is profiting from all of these drugs? We're in such a society now where it's like, oh, take a pill, you'll be right. Just take another injection, another booster shot. What happened to trusting our natural immune system? I had a tetanus shot about 25 years ago that I actually had sciatica from then on, from that point forward, for years, I've had sciatica down the same side of my body that I had the tetanus shot. Now, my dad recently had both double jabs, right? I've refused to take the jabs. All my family's done it, no matter what I've said to them, and that's their choice. However, my dad then came up a few months after he had the second jab. He got shingles the first time ever. He's 84 years of age. He got shingles down the same side of his body that he had the jab. Now, if that's not linked to the jab, then,
Oh, it's rampant. It's rampant shingles now. They're advertising, big farmers everywhere, beware of shingles. There's a epidemic on shingles now, apparently. There's an epidemic on HIV virus, apparently. And it's all linked for sure. I mean, it's all coming out in the Pfizer documents. The Pfizer documents that have been released by force, that in the trials people got shingles.
Well, there you go. Well, my dad just got it, and he was in a lot of pain.
You're worried about what I'm saying here, because we're going to be. It's a very painful thing to have, and then you never get rid of it. It stays in your body, and it can come out at any time. So yeah. So the bottom line is the freedom parties, which is ourselves, obviously, United Australia Party, One Nation, and Liberal Democrats, and then there's a lot of lovely other ones like IMOP and Australian Values parties. Unfortunately, the smaller parties are a wasted vote. They're not big enough to get in, and it might bring down the numbers from Liberal or Labor's vote, but they will still have the majority over smaller parties. So I know enough about politics, and if it's not One Nation or Liberal Democrats or United Australia Party, it's going to be a wasted vote. And that's sad, but true. So the three majors last, the three larger parties that are freedom parties at the top. Hopefully United Australia Party first, because I believe 100% we've got Clive Palmer, who's got the business nous to get us out of our debt. And then we've got Craig Kelly, who's got the passion and the conviction of his passion to lead the party as our Prime Minister and make sure it happens. We have the two end spectrum of the scale that come together. They are unbeatable, I believe. And I'm not going to knock the other freedom parties like Campbell Newman and One Nation, because they're fighting the same cause we are. And, I think we should all work together.
Absolutely, totally agree. Now, some people are saying that there's rumours out there in the street that United Australia Party are giving their votes to Labor or Liberal. Now, that is definitely not the case, right?
We're giving our main preferences are going to Liberal Democrats Democrats. I'll just say it again, Liberal Democrats, not Liberal Party. Now, having said that, there might be most of the how to vote cards, you can look them all up, you can find them. You'll see we're not preferencing Liberals. There are some seats where we are. There's people like a Liberal politician called Fiona White, who crossed the floor with Craig Kelly against the Liberals, in what Craig was believing. And so people that were still fighting the cause, that are still in the party, we will preference them because, if they do get in, we need those people in there to fight their own party for a start. But in general, in probably 85 to 90% of the how to vote cards, no, it's not happening. And definitely not Labor, unless there's a strategic plan there. But there'd hardly be any of those.
So Liberal and Labor, they're part of the same evil boat. And then Greens. Now, some people think, Greens, it sounds like an environmentally friendly group. So what are your thoughts on Greens?
They're just an offshot of Labor. Their votes go to Labor. I'll give you an example of the Greens. On the Gold Coast, my printer does the Greens core flutes as well. Now they're plastic, right? So that's not good for the environment. They're 5 millimeters thick, and my printer said to the Greens, well, do you want me to do yours 3 millimeters because they're plastic, so they're not so bad for the environment? They said no, we want them 5 millimeters. So that wasn't the Greens caring about the environment at all, was it?
No.
Thousands of core flutes, So that's just one very small example. But I'm not a climate change advocate at all. Yep. And, I know where that all came from and comes from. It's all part of what's going on now, and the leaders are going to make a lot of money out of it if we get to net zero and do all the stuff they want us to do. Those plant-based foods are poisonous. They're not healthy. I'm an activist for animals. I don't like the way we treat animals. I'm not a vegan, but I am an activist for treating them humanely, at least,
Yes,
and sort of plant-based foods are wonderful, but make sure you make them yourself with fresh plants. I wouldn't necessarily be going out and buying what you think is 100% plant-based. It's got a lot of synthetics and a lot of other poisonous and toxic stuff in there. So
yes.
So I'm not for climate change. I think that's another agenda that is right alongside this one.
So the best way to vote for those who want freedom, what is the best thing that how is it best that they vote so that votes do go to the freedom parties as opposed to, or the main freedom parties, as opposed to being wasted with Liberal, Labor or Greens?
Okay, so at the bottom of your ballot card, whoever your sitting member is, if it's Labor or Liberal, put them last, because the first thing you want to do is get rid of your sitting member. And then the next one up, if it's Labor, put Liberal. If it's Liberal, put Labor. Second last. Third last, put the Greens. Then go to the top of your voting card. I'm going to say UAP first, I hope. And
Yes.
then I would say Liberal Democrats, and then I would say One Nation. So that's the 3 top and that's the 3 bottom. Now, different seats have 6 votes or 5 votes or 4 or 9. In between, put the smaller parties. Number 4, I would put IMOP. Michael's been the it's the Medical Opposition Party. They've been fighting this cause for a very long time. They're all decent candidates, and their leader, Michael, is a beautiful, beautiful man. So I would put them number 4. And then you've got obviously the Australian Values part. There's a lot of smaller ones in between. So you look at them and decide which one you want to put in your own preferences. But as long as you put your sitting member last, those 3 majors last, the 3 bigger freedom parties at the top, then we've got a chance, as long as you say, it's not rigged. Then we have a chance. But we can look in my electorate in Moncrief. It's very much a blue ribbon seat, has been for a long, long time. I've been out on the campaign trail and on the voting ballot boxes, and it's still very much a Liberal seat. However, having said that, we can win on preferences. Most governments have won on preferences. It's not always first one past the post. Our preferential system, which I think is stupid, can get you in anyway without being first one past the post. So between the Lib Democrats and UAP preferencing each other, hopefully that might get one of us in.
Yes, great. I think that's great advice. And look, I must say, I've never been much into politics in the past. It's something I've tended to, steer away from. However, I think with the state of the world the last 2 years, I think people are actually sitting up and paying attention now and actually wanting to be heard on this and wanting to be a stand for our freedom. And that is what we're talking about here today, about standing for freedom. Just a quick hello to all our people watching this. Hello, Tim. Good to see you on LinkedIn there. Amanda says, spot on, Aldwyn and Diane. Thank you. So timely for us to hear this. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. Colette says, build resilient relationships, come together as a family and community. Yes, that is definitely happening more and more communities coming together, conscious communities as well. Colette sends you love about your son. We're all sending you love about your son. That must be incredibly hard for you, very challenging, and I guess a great motivator for you to be a stand for your son as well. Amanda says, agree, Alden, we need to take back control of everything in our lives. So sorry to hear about your son, Diane. Think about all the legal ramifications that will happen in the future. Sadly, a lot of people will realise what is happening far too late. That's right, Amanda, and can't say we didn't warn them. And Colette, we get to pave the way for our children to speak their truth. Absolutely, Colette. And if you have any questions, anyone watching this, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching this or listening to this right now, please pop your questions in, and we can present them to Diane here. Now, Diane, I am curious about your media background. Can you share a bit about what you did in the media for years?
Okay, so mainly what I did was I started in media sales. But having said that, as I stayed in media, I wrote for various magazines. I was very lucky that the things that I wrote were, I had to experience things and write about them. Like I'd fly first class in airlines and write about the airlines, stay in top hotels, around the world and write about them, drive Bentleys and Maseratis, write about them. It wasn't anything too deep. And then, on 4BC in Brisbane, it was all that glitters. It was all about the Gold Coast, promoting the Gold Coast tourism. So they would, put me up and let me experience things, and I'd talk about them on 4BC every Sunday night for a half an hour or so. So it wasn't anything deep like what I'm talking about now, because it wasn't my main career. But yeah, it was experiencing things and writing about them, mainly. My daughter studied journalism at Bond, and I sort of wish I did delve into journalism more. I did try to get into talkback radio. I did quite a few demos, and I nearly got there. But back in my day, as the program manager said, women don't make it in talkback radio. That's how chauvinistic talkback radio is. But, he was wrong. Had he put me on there, I would have been, I believe, because people, it's the way it always is with me, people love me or hate me or love to hate me. And that's how you become a number one talkback announcer. They listen to you to hate you, to go, what is she saying now? So, I wish I had delved into it a little bit more, but, I ended up having my own advertising agency and events company. And, I've ended up running with that, which COVID has destroyed.
Got it. And which media outlets were you with?
2GB in Sydney, 2SM in Sydney, obviously 4BC up here, business news publications, and a legal magazine in Brisbane. I can just remember the legal thing. I can't remember the whole name of it.
Okay, got it. Now, I've been in the media for a long time, in fact, over 20 years as a journalist, and I can say for sure that journalists, even back then when I was a journalist, we were being told what to report on. When the stories were not there, we were given these agendas to push a certain line, and it happens still to this day, even though now we have social media and the whole world of the mass media has changed so much in that time. Absolutely, there are times when there was blanketed news across all the News Limited or APN publications that just overnight it was all the headline news just came across everything, right? And we see it even to this day, right? Headline news about, get your booster shot or whatever it is. And then not to mention the floods and the cloud seeding and the chemtrails.
Well, don't get me on that one either. And, with all the rain... With all the rain we're having, people will do postal voting, and that's where the fraud can happen more than anywhere. Happens to just be raining and voting time, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Isn't that interesting?
Saturday before the election, it poured down. We couldn't even have our freedom rally at the.
That's right.
We had it, but it was just a mess.
We had it, and people still showed up even in the rain. And I did, and I actually did. I did 2 hours of Facebook Live in the rain under the umbrella, so you can actually see that online, which is on YouTube and BitChute. Now you can have a look at that if you want to see what happened.
You can't keep a freedom fighter down, Aldwyn.
No, and that's the thing, is we will keep standing for truth. We will keep standing for what is right. And, you know, that's the thing, is that the truth always comes out in the end. It always comes out in the end. So more ways to be empowered right now. Now, I must say, you know, we do vibrate at different frequencies according to Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. And I do have a chart here somewhere. You can see it actually I've got a brand new Facebook group called Conscious Community Global. And if you look in there in the featured section, you'll see a whole lot of documentaries there that will blow your mind, life-changing documentaries. And there's a chart in there which has got Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. And it talks about, they're actually scientifically proven, that we are 99.9% energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we get into different emotional states, we vibrate at different frequencies. So when you get into shame and guilt, you're vibrating at 20 to 30 hertz. When you're in fear, you're at 100 hertz, or anger or sadness. Those kind of energies are quite heavy energies, right? Whereas when you get into love and above, 528 hertz is love. Enjoy, if you're happy, if you're in joy and gratitude, you're actually vibrating at 540 hertz. If you're in peace, you're at 600. If you're in enlightenment, 700 plus. That's the highest vibration we will feel as human beings. And so a simple thing like a gratitude practice, or doing something that you love to do, will make you feel more empowered than getting into the drama of what's going on right now. It's important to be aware of what's going on right now. However, notice your energy and notice where you're vibrating at, and where, you know, what you're feeling while all this is happening. You can still live an empowered life by getting into gratitude, joy, love. And you can definitely shift your family, your friends, your community by where you're vibrating at in life. So that's some tips I can give people to be empowered at this time, regardless of all the craziness going on out there. And any other tips from you, Diane, on how people can live a more empowered life right now?
Exactly what you said. If you go to bed every night and you just think, is there of 3 little things, that could be the tiniest little things to be grateful for. It sets a different vibration in you, that, you know, all isn't doom and gloom, all isn't bad. And I brought my kids up on that. Before I kissed them goodnight in bed, I'd say, give me 5 gratefuls before you go to bed. And they'd always have to say 5 gratefuls. And, you know, sometimes I'll go days and I'll struggle, go, what am I grateful today? Oh, you know, what? Please, what? But, you know, if you really think about it, there's always something. And you have to, and that will keep your mindset of being grateful. And, you know, even writing your gratefuls out if you have time. I'm grateful, you know, for this, blah, 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 you know, like, and doing that at least twice a week or something. It gives you a different mindset and a different vibration. So, and there always is something to be grateful for. There really is, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
totally.
Yeah.
And Colette says, always look from a higher perspective. Yes, I love that,
Colette.
Yes, look from a higher perspective. And also a great question to ask is, you know, what you're worrying about right now, will this be a concern in 5 years from now? Will you be so worried about whatever it is you're worrying about right now in 5 years? You know, the thing is, things are constantly changing. We're constantly evolving. It is very interesting times we're in. And during the hardest times in the past, we've had more millionaires than ever before come out during these times, and we've had people crash as well. So it's all about, what are you going to do during the current circumstances? And we do have actually the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich right now, and part of that would be going to the vaccines, I would say, and to other things. You know, that's where's the money trail going? Who's profiting from what's going on?
That's the other thing, you know, like, I always brought my kids up to set goals and be motivated and you know, work towards a goal, and no matter how much you get knocked down, you know, don't give up, you know, just don't give up. And so many people have turned rags to riches. Even Kentucky Fried, he was 85 before they even, you know, took on his Kentucky Fried. He was sleeping in the car, but he never gave up. And unfortunately, with the way the world is now, I can understand the kids mentally haven't got the mindset to set goals, because you can be knocked down in a second by our government. It's when, you know, we're not showing a world of vibration and motivation, and you can move forward and do anything you want to do, and you can go from rags to riches and achieve whatever you want. You know what I mean? It's because it's all fear mongering and it's all miserable, and it's, you know, it's just such an awful vibration that's out there, you know, for the kids from little kids to grow up in, you know, even at school. So we have to change it. We have to change it. We have to be, let Happ make you happy again. We have to be happy again. We really do. You know, we have to not wear masks and smile and look at people's eyes and see the smile. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, not the miserable, oh, I'm scared. And there's all these people running around now wearing masks. We don't even have to.
Yes. Yeah, I love that, Diane. And absolutely, there is a lot of drama out there. And it's an 80-20 rule. I'd say 80% of people are going to be miserable at any one point. However, the beauty is, this is the good news, is that it's not about changing everybody, because we have something called critical mass, quantum critical mass. And one open heart is actually 5,000 times more powerful than one closed mind. And this is what I'm standing for, is actually to shift the critical mass, which will then shift the rest of the world. So this is where, you know, if you are feeling called to research more or to make a stand, you know, I'm sure you are looking for more support as well. Are you with your election on Saturday?
If any volunteers out there, please go to the United Party, Australia United Party website, and you'll see my email address, and contact me. Because, we need the volunteers to scrutiny. We need the volunteers for the booths. We need the volunteers to put up signs at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's the big one. Because once they get there at 8 o'clock, everyone, you know, the bigger parties have got all the room taken. So, any support, that would be great.
Yes, and you get free T-shirt and free cap as well.
You do. and we have an election night party where you can, you know, sandwiches and biscuits and coffee and tea. But there's a bar there.
Nice. We'll be ready for a drink by that stage, I'd say. So, it's definitely interesting times. And good on you, Diane, for standing. How has this been for you this time around, like compared to previous times?
Yeah, this one, if I knew it was going to be this hard, I don't know if I would have done it, to be quite honest. It's just, I'm flat out getting everything done in time before Saturday. It is a lot more difficult election, because the other parties, because of, you know, the major parties aren't as relaxed as what they normally are. So their fights are a lot bigger, and, you know, they're putting a lot more money in, like just the little things, like all our posters have been taken down, and we go the next day and put them up, and the next day they get taken down. Now, my poster call flutes will be right beside every other party, and they'll stay there, but ours will be taken down. So, you know, who do you think's doing that? You know, someone's paid out to do that. And, you know, from my perspective, you know, I'm the underdog. I came in late because, you know, Dean was the candidate, and then he had the dual citizenship. So I came in late, so I was behind the 8 ball. And the catch-up time, and look, you know, I've been a single mother most of my life with the kids and everything, and then I had a funeral, then we moved house. And, you know, I don't have a lot of money to put into this. So, you know, we go to the polling booths and everyone else has got millions of signs and big posters, and, you know, I'm flat out if I've got one little one there. But I've got a good team behind me who are doing everything they can. But I don't have enough people on the booths. Some of my booths aren't manned, so people may not know who to vote. So I am the underdog. If I win, it will be a miracle. But, it's a fight out there. And people, last time I ran for Palmer years ago, initially, you know, the Labors and Liberals would, when you're debating, they'd have a go at you and try to pull you down. But then we all got to know each other, and like the media would come around, they'd interview them, and they would interview me, and they would go to me and say, hey, wait a minute, you interview Di as well. We work together, you know, even though you're opposition, we worked respectfully to each other. You know, we're now out there on the booths, there's not so much respect from the majors at all. The freedom parties are handing out each other's brochures, but the majors aren't being very friendly. And my direct opposition, Andrew Belly, is not coming in with a smile on her face and happy. She's certainly coming in angry and causing all sorts of problems at the booths, which means she's probably feeling threatened, I suppose. But yeah, it's a much more angry ground, this election, than it's ever been. Like
Yes.
some of the other people, like the Labor Party young kids the other day that were handing out brochures for Labor, started calling me an anti-vaxxer, and they were getting very aggressive about it. And I thought, well, we can have a civil conversation. I know I'm not going to sit here and change your mind, and I'm not even going to try. You have your opinion based on what you know, but there's no need to be aggressive with me, So, yeah, there's a lot more aggro out there at the polling booths than there has been in the past. A lot of aggro with I was handing out brochures at a shopping centre, and I said, vote UAP. And this guy said, I'd rather be dead in the ditch. And then he kept on walking, and I went, well, it might be if you keep wages in. I said it really under my breath. I thought, well, I was a bit loud, wasn't I? And so he came back, and he was going to hit me. He was definitely going to hit me, and he rang centre management to try and get rid of me. But I was legally there. I wasn't in the shopping centre. I was over the border where I was allowed to be, and he got really, really aggro. Other people have got, I've had financial planners say, you can't make the Reserve Bank cap it at 3%. Yeah. I said, we can legislate for a start. The Reserve Bank was sold off years ago, but the government can take it back. But thirdly, if the government can own your body and tell you you can't work unless you take a medical procedure, then doesn't that prove the government can do anything? I think 3% on home loans is nothing. So, had nothing to say then. But there was a lot of, instead of having civil conversations, they're very, very aggressive conversations. Right. And I've got to, when I first started campaigning, I thought, Di, you just got to, stop being passionate, just calm down. So now I just smile and wave, do the Queen thing, smile and wave. Because there's no point. You can't get through to them. You just can't. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're not going to change your mind of
no.
like that.
And hurt people, as I say, hurt people.
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. Yes.
They'll bring you down to their level. And there's a lot of them out there, sadly.
Yes, or they'll have a go at bringing you down to their level, and that's where who we hang out with right now, who we have in our environment, and what we stand for, and being clear and aligned with our own personal truth. No matter what anyone says, if you are aligned in your truth, you are empowered. And you have extra support, right? You have spiritual support. You have well beyond this body. And, we are 5D beings in a 3D body. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the more I believe we tap into this foundation of amazing, powerful energy within and without all of us, right? The more we tap into that and the more we speak our truth and stand for our truth.
The energy out there.
The less anyone can shake you, right? They will have a go. They'll definitely have a go. And, that's the thing. You're going to have your lovers and your haters. And what's important is that you speak your truth, that you stand for what you believe in, and standing for freedom. The truth will always come out in the end. And it is a David and Goliath battle. However, remember, David won. David beat the giant, right? So it is definitely possible. And as Colette says here, miracles do happen, right? It might feel like
they do. They do.
They absolutely do.
My son, because I'd be fighting with my friends over all this stuff. And, some friends of years and years and years I've fallen out with because they just won't listen. And my daughter used to say, Mum, you just got to stop doing this. And even my son said it a little bit, but they didn't say, but then Mummy said, you be you. You be you. Never stop being you. You've always fought for what you believe in. You stay that way, and you be you no matter what they say. Live by your own heart. And that's what you've got to do. And all these people that aren't living by their heart at the moment, as in these journalists and these politicians and these medical profession, are like, how do they sleep at night? Like, at the end of the day, how do they sleep at night? It's got to get to them. It's got to eat them up somewhere, because we're still human underneath it all,
Absolutely. Totally. It's a karma thing. What comes around goes around. There's no need for nastiness in any environment, particularly right now. I know there's a lot of anger and frustration, etc., over how the last 2 years has gone for a lot of people. However, it's fantastic that people have their own opinions. Do your own research, have your own opinions, be kind to others, be kind to yourself. There's no need for nastiness. I really believe moving forward, this is about unity and community. It's about coming together.
Going back to unity and community, going back to community. We've long lost it in our race against life to own the big houses and the cars, and we've lost community. We don't know our neighbours. We don't live in communities anymore. We fight with our neighbours. We need to go back where, look, grandma was sick, so someone else in the street brought the soup over for the kids. Community spirit. We need to go back to that.
Absolutely. So here's standing for community spirit. And I know there's a lot of communities that have started up through the last 2 years as well, and people that are doing things differently now, because clearly the current system has been corrupt for a long time. And it is surfacing. The cracks are appearing. People are starting to wake up more and more. You may not see it. And there's a lot more people that are awake than you may actually know. Not everyone has the courage to speak up about it. However, people are standing for their rights and for their freedoms, and because what we've seen is unprecedented on many levels. On many levels. And so good on you, Diane, for standing for what you believe in and for putting yourself out there. I acknowledge you. I congratulate you. And whatever happens, whatever result happens on Saturday, they say be committed, not attached. Be committed to what you want, not attached to the outcome and how it's going to look.
I understand.
So all you can do is do your best, right? Do your best and keep standing for what you believe in. Any final words you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Myself, sorry, you're talking
to me? Anything else you'd like to share? We've spoken for an hour already.
Well, obviously, if there's any Moncrief people out there, vote one Diane Happ and get me in, and I'll fight for you, and I'll fight for you to the end, and I'll always have an open door in my office with any of your problems that you feel need addressed, and I'll let you know if I don't agree with you or if I do agree with you. But if I agree with you, I'll certainly fight for you more than most. And I'm an honest person. I'm a passionate person, as you probably can see. I'm a family person. And I think if you do vote me, you'll be very happy that you did.
Yeah, I love your work, Diane. I think you're amazing. And, particularly with the challenges you've been through, my heart goes to you with what happened to your son. And what you're doing is you're helping his legacy live on with what you're doing. And, I just can't imagine how challenging it must have been for you, and so many others out there as well. So many other people who've lost loved ones at this time, who haven't been able to attend funerals. In fact, I lost my uncle in Sydney, wasn't able to attend the funeral because of mandates and restrictions and all of that stuff. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend my own uncle's funeral during this time. And I know so many others have suffered in different ways, and my heart goes out to you. And, life is a roller coaster ride. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs. What's most important is that you stay on that ride. You keep strapped in on that ride of life, and you make the most of the experience, no matter what is happening out there around us. And freedom is what we're standing for. You've heard here today how to vote. So the Freedom Parties have a better chance of getting in to actually have more of a say. If you're not happy with how things have gone the last few years, then do something differently. You keep doing the same thing, you'll get the same result, right? So this is a matter of really waking up and doing that. And Michael's put a huge comment here on LinkedIn, which you can actually read on LinkedIn. I'm not going to go through it all. However, he is talking about... he says, upcoming Australian federal elections, ask if you are happy with where the majors have taken us in the last decade or so, but most importantly, where they took us in the last few years in their handling of COVID and their inability to change the narrative once new scientific data made the initial and continuing fear-driven mandates so obviously wrong. And it goes on. Thank you, Michael, for that. I appreciate your comments there. We can have a look at that later. And for anyone else watching this, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. Diane, any final words before we wrap up? How can we support you again for those who've just joined us?
You go to the AustraliaUnitedParty.org.au and look up my the candidate for Moncrief. There's an email address there. Just shoot me an email and say, here to help, what can we do?
Fantastic. And I've just popped that in there, UnitedAustraliaParty.org.
No, Australia. I mean, yeah, UnitedAustraliaParty.org.au.
UnitedAustraliaParty.org.au. Yep, there it is. So you'll find all the details in there. UnitedAustraliaParty.org.au.
And look up candidates. Then look up me.
look up candidates, look up Diane, and then you can support Diane. Yep, contact, and there's still lots that can be done between now and Election Day on Saturday. Can't believe it's come around so quickly, Diane. Amazing. And, you're probably getting less and less sleep in the lead up, but here's to a successful outcome, whichever way it goes, and to hopefully waking more people up out there to what is really going on in the world. Now, for those who want to connect with me, all my links are at linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn, and you can join our Conscious Community Global Facebook group. We have links in there to the Thrive documentaries, to Samadhi, to Out of Shadows, which was banned everywhere, about how we've been controlled by the media. It is linked in that group, okay? So it's Conscious Community Global. You'll find the link in the linktree/Aldwyn. And anything else you'd like to share. If you've loved today, then let us know what you've thought. What are some things you've got out of this conversation today? Let us know in the comments. Share the love. Share the wisdom and the love here, so more people can be inspired by this interview. And here's to really lifting the energy out there. As Gandhi says, yeah, sorry, Diane. Yep.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying goodbye. So I said, okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, just about to say goodbye. Just finally, I always like to end with these quotes. As Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And as I say, shine bright and light up all those around you. Thank you so much, Diane, for being with us today. Thank you for joining us. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world. And here's to more freedom parties. Thank you so much. And it's Mum on the phone. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.